Today, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Thank you for coming. Such a beautiful day to be in here, but anyways, I'm gonna just have a moment of reflection so we can reflect on the business we're about to do. Thank you. Now, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or nature thereof? And at any time, you can declare that through the meeting. Public participation. Members of the public are encouraged to provide the committee with their comments and questions. Presentations must be prearranged with legislative services before the agenda is released. Members of the public who wish to make a deputation about a specific agenda item at the meeting must register in advance with legislative services by 4 p.m. on February 4th for this meeting by contacting sbrown@meaford.ca or 519-538-1060, extension 1110. Presentations are limited to 10 minutes and deputations are limited to 5 minutes. Today, we do have a presentation. I would Sharon Mason or Linda, who's doing the presentation, and
You're not getting out of that easy, sure.
I know, she tries. So we did this presentation. Is my ready to begin? Yeah. So
Yes.
thank you for having us here, first of all. But we did this presentation at council a week ago Monday. Yeah. I didn't follow through the whole part of the presentation because our point of the whole presentation was to request or incentivize council to please put the on the agenda for the budget for 2025, the engineering costs for the bridge. So I think I'm not sure how you do this. Oh, do I press? Oops, no, what did I do? Oh, which one? Which one? This one? Okay, good. Okay, that's good. So the picture is really worth 1,000 words. And there's the river, the Big Head River, and you can see where Beautiful Joe Park is and the so-called Legion Park, which we don't really actually know if that was part of the Moore property when Beautiful Joe became sold or whatever, or given to the municipality. So we're not quite sure if it's all Beautiful Joe. We hope that eventually it'll all be called Beautiful Joe. But then you can see where it would go. Oops, okay. Oh, it did go. Okay. So on the left, you can see obviously someone in a scooter getting along, which is, we'll go into that a little bit more in the next one. On the right-hand side, there's a couple of bridges that they sent us. And of course, the one closest to us, the dark one, is the one that we were looking at. Did that go? No, yes, okay. So the big challenge for us is the driveway to the park. It doesn't look that bad when you take a picture of it, but if you try and walk down it, the gravel slides and slips out. If Sharon actually took a ball and stood it at the top and it rolled down by itself.
I simply nudged it with my toe.
Yeah.
And it just.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And we've had challenges when we've had people there. They get down it fine because gravity, right? But getting back up is a real challenge. We've had to push some people up in their scooters, and walkers are really dangerous because that can easily get away from you. So it's very unsafe. We've had cars. I mean, even myself as an example, when I get to the top of the hill, in order to go up far enough to be able to see on each side, I can't see straight ahead because my nose in my car is like up this way, right? So the sight lines are really poor for that. And so it's not a very safe spot. This is the old shoot,
Beautiful Joe Parks.
yeah, the beautiful Joe Park sign. Yeah, thank you.
So that would have been in and around the time.
Yes.
That we did the study. in
Correct,
2011.
correct. So in that time, we did a full assessment. We did the public input and all kinds of things. At that time, it was approved by council to go forward in the future with a bridge. Let's see. Okay, this is one example. Do you want to talk about this one, Sharon?
Sure.
Okay.
The last major event that we had in Beautiful Joe Park was in 2019. And that was the Ultimates. And when we actually did that, we watched 3 people fall down the hill coming into the park. So that was kind of the end of events in our little minds that this is not good. We're doing an event here in a safe place and people can't get in. And we had over 200 people attend.
Mhm.
So that's when our process really took shape, that this had to be done.
Right. The other part is that when they brought their equipment, they had a long vehicle, a trailer with a smaller trailer attached, and they bottomed out going out. It was not very pleasant. And we were concerned that they weren't going to get out. So we put on our safety vests and went out and stopped traffic so that they could take a good run at it to get out, right? So,
The backdrop in that picture is actually the RV they come in.
yes.
I didn't have a full picture, but it's a full, huge RV
Yeah.
pulling a horse trailer.
Yeah.
So,
Which I should bring up at this point too. We were asked to do a tour of the park for people that were coming by bus. Well, the bus drivers refused to go down the laneway, right? They weren't going to do it. So here I am in the bus, pointing down the road to whatever they couldn't see anyway, right? But it was just very embarrassing and it was, nobody got a full feel of what the park was like unless you can drive a car or come with someone with a car, which is unfortunate. Because as we're aging, that's part of our problem is, some people now can't drive a car, but they can't come down unless they know someone that has a car that will bring them down. Yeah, so it's a challenge. In 2019, we met with 2 members of staff that are no longer with us, and trying to figure out how we could move forward. And that didn't really go too far. We had a lot of good conversations and that kind of thing. But I think that was the reason we decided that we would see what we could do. So we went out and investigated this bridge. And we found the Terra Bridge. This was the same company. That company's not existing at the moment or now any longer. It was Eagle Bridge that we got the initial quote for in 2011. So 2020, we got a quote from Eagle Bridge for this exact bridge in Terra. We actually fell in love with the bridge because it met all our criteria. There was no maintenance on it, which would be very good for the municipality, not to have to worry about that. It was quite a nice bridge and it was 130,000.
and it's strictly pedestrian.
And it is pedestrian, yes. And they do have, you can see it, it's a little hard to see, but at each end they have a metal pipe in the center so that, other vehicles won't use the bridge. It's about 6 feet wide. And then this is our fundraising sign in the bridge. And of course that in the park, sorry, in the bridge, yeah, right, in the park. Of course, the goal was 130,000. And today it says in our thing here, it says 112, but we're over 115,000 now. So we're doing pretty good. And I guess I can mention that
Yeah.
because it's going in the paper.
It's
Okay.
on our Facebook page.
And it's on Facebook. Okay. We got a $30,000 donation from the Stanley Knight Heritage Society, which really bumped us ahead quite well. So we're really happy about that. And they see the need for the bridge as well. So That's good. So that sign is a little off. It's over 115. 115 is in our GICs, but there is a little extra that'll be coming into the next GIC. You want to speak anything about that? Where they came from?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll
Of
put that on the next one. Go ahead.
course, I can't see that.
That's all right. You don't need to. It's
There
on
you
here.
go.
I've got it here.
We're at a total of 115,000. The
Yep.
extra 3 came from fundraising that happened by the end of the year,
Yep.
so, and that's all allocated. We've brought in money from all over the place, a lot locally, needless to say, but there has been stuff come in from the States, from outside Canada. During the 150, we tried to raise 150 donors for the 150 years of Meaford, which we surpassed. And actually, the 150th donor was from British Columbia. So I thought that was kind of unique
Yeah.
too, because Joe's story is known all over the world,
Right.
and that donation came in from the West.
That's right. And while we're talking about all over the world, we've had visitors from all over the world also come to little old Meaford to see the park, which is kind of cool. We have, you might want to mention plaques for a minute. Some of the plaques coming from different
Yeah, we've
places.
got, there's 239 plaques up there presently. By the time we put the rest up come spring, there'll be 250. And they're from all over the place. We've got our first one from Germany, and that was 1.5 years ago. So that's our first connection outside North America. But we've got them from California, from Florida, like all over. the
Well,
place.
we've had the, Yukon,
Northwest
Northwest
Territories. Yep.
Territories, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
We have one presently from Nova Scotia, which circumstantially is from the hometown of North Marshall's Falls.
Which
So
was
that's kinda
really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Unbeknownst, right?
Yeah.
From Berwick.
Yes, and we've actually over time, we had hired a student to go to Nova Scotia and get some information for us from the archives there, which was helpful, but more needs to be done. The other thing that is worthy to note is that we had a visit from a police officer in England who came to visit. His
Canine.
canine partner, yeah, I was gonna say officer, canine partner passed away in the line of service. And he came over to see what we were doing because he felt that England needed to also support their canine officers. So he came with his family, and that was really cool.
And since then.
And since then, yes, and since then, they have put a monument up to his dog Ghost. And
It's outside the police station in Mersey.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
they all kind of snowball
yeah,
from Little Old Meaford.
yeah. So that was kind of cool. There we go. Okay, so the issue is a big one is the accessibility, and we know that the municipality is supposed to be accessible by this year, 2025. And I think it's the only park that's not accessible. Everything else I think is pretty level. Hmm,
The reason we selected this photo, I don't know if you've been over to the nursing home.
oh, yes, that's right.
That's where this photo is from. It's from the Dimension Wing. And that area is called Beautiful Joe Way.
Yeah.
So it's important to the community. But the poor citizens that are in the home, because it's not accessible, they don't visit.
That's right. So I guess that's our big thing is to get it moving quickly, because we're all getting older. Pretty soon we won't be able to go to the park.
Not me,
Pardon?
not me.
Not you. Oh, well, good for you. We do have one board member that uses a rollator, and she can't get to the park unless she gets to drive to. So, and we have our meetings there in the summer times. Well, whenever it's warm enough, we have our meetings there. In the winter, we go elsewhere. So the big thing is to get at least the engineering costs in the budget for this year. And also, okay, thank you. One more. Yes, you can talk about that.
No, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You're doing good. So we haven't been fundraising that long, 3 years for the bridge, so we've done pretty good. We haven't been able to fundraise the way most people would or organizations would fundraise. Our challenge has been because we don't own the land. So anything that we want to do there, organizations are not that keen on giving us funds when we don't own the land, because you guys do. So yeah, even getting trees, which is a bad subject, but even getting trees for the park, we couldn't do that ourselves because we don't own the land. So it's a bit of a challenge. So it's just been donations. We've had people come from different provinces, tourists alike all over the place. They stop in on their way to Tobermory, you know, to have their lunch or whatever on their way up or on the way back. And they make donations, you know, we do tours July and August on sunny Sundays. And, you know, we meet a lot of people that way, a lot of Americans, actually.
And there's
Yeah.
been a number of local tourists and tour groups come through. Like
That's
Burlington went
true.
through with us again last year.
Yeah,
Fair Pros, they came with us last year.
yeah,
There was another Probus group 2 years ago.
yeah.
And unfortunately, we are missing out on big tours. We had someone
Yep.
from London with a tour company that wanted to come, but as soon as they heard that the park wasn't accessible, I think.
It's like that was the end of it. Yeah, exactly.
Which is really.
So
unfortunate.
Sharon's been excellent in the um technology area, or what I want to call that. She's a marketer, so she knows, you know, how to market, and she does it very well. So we're trying to get more local organizations to come for tours. We've had the staff a couple of times, and yeah, everybody enjoys the park. You know,
And every time they come, they learn something.
that's true.
Especially the locals, they think they know, well, they know
Yes.
best.
That was the funniest part, because when we had the two staff members come, it would be Rod and Rob. When we had them come, their response was, well, we know everything. And I said, we'll see. So I said, Sharon, start a tour. And they had no choice but to come for a tour. And it was like, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So it's very exciting anyway. It's a good story. The story is never ending, because kindness is always important. So it doesn't matter age, or doesn't matter anything.
It's a huge
It's-
demographic.
I mean, sure, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So
Thank you,
I think
ladies.
that's it.
I appreciate that. Is there any questions or comments from around the table? Angela?
Yeah, no, I'd just like to say that, first of all, thank you for the work that you're doing. It is endearing to see dedication and persistence on a goal that's been almost 15 years in the making.
Mhm.
I mean, we're really impressed. It's a lot of work to get to the point that you've gotten to, and you're doing it. You know, this is, you're near the finish line now.
Yeah.
So it's really impressive.
hope.
And
We are.
this,
are.
yeah, and that's something to celebrate in itself. And you're at the point now where seniors, people with mobility issues, they can come and they can enjoy this park. And it's a
Mhm.
beautiful park.
Mhm.
It's not a challenging loop, but you still get to experience nature, and it's shady in the summertime, and it's got a lot of rich history. And there's a lot of members of our community that
Yeah.
that can experience this, you know, piece of history right in our backyard. So I just want to say thank you for the work that you're doing. I'm really impressed with it.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Rob?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you again for the presentation. The second time seeing it, it's still good. Yeah, I'll echo the really, really good work. It's amazing. And we feel your pain, because to go from 68,000 to now what's like 178
Yeah.
required
Yeah.
try dealing with a wastewater plant that goes from 30 to $120 million, yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. My question is, you, at the end of that presentation, which you didn't say at council, was that you said you had difficulty getting donations because you didn't own the land.
Yeah,
Is there any mechanism that you can partner with the municipality to that regard? Because we should be doing that if we're not.
we tried that, and it wasn't successful because all the criteria for what we would need was more what the municipality wanted to do in other areas. So we fell off the way.
Can we revisit that?
Well, yes, we're very open to it. We're very
Okay.
open to it.
Yeah, I'd recommend.
Even with when I was on the accessibility committee for 8 years, and we tried every fundraising opportunity that came up. Would we fit for that? Well, there was always something else the municipality wanted to do, and that was the end of that. So we weren't successful that way.
I think the other thing
It's a
right
little
now, we
discouraging.
are in a position where we're gonna have money. This fall.
Yeah,
Yeah,
This
yeah.
fall, if not sooner.
yeah.
great. And that, the only thing I would say, just to be encouraging, is I think there's a bit more of an appetite. This particular council has talked about this,
Mhm.
and I think for the most part, funds of budget aside that we're having,
Yeah.
there is an appetite to get this done, because it is long overdue. It is a municipal park. There's really no reason,
Yeah.
and AOATA coming into effect now, this should be happening.
Yeah.
So please reach out and see
We
if
do,
we can.
we do
help.
appreciate that, and anytime some funding comes up that, we can partner,
Yeah.
that we're happy to do that, more than happy, because we
Great.
want to see it in probably more than you do.
Anybody else? Rick?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Ladies, again, thank you very much for the presentation. Yeah, it is definitely a wonderful spot in the community. A couple questions. First, you'd mentioned that Eagle Bridge no longer
Mhm.
was manufacturing those bridges. Have you investigated an alternative supplier for the bridge?
Yes, we have the last quote, the last two quotes, no, the last quote was from Algonquin Bridge.
For a similar
But
product.
yes, I gave them all the criteria from Eagle Bridge, and they came back with the 170 something. Yeah.
The second question, yeah, I'm assuming that basically, once the finances have been all nailed down,
Mhm.
I assume that would be the intent then that to move the project forward with the appropriate approvals, the municipality you would expect the municipality to take the lead in doing the project management and
Absolutely.
getting the
Yeah.
bridge in place.
Absolutely. Yeah, so what would be left is the engineering to decide exactly where the best location would be. Also the abutments, we were proposing, and our quote was for a very long bridge because we wanted it to span over the bridge at the highest points if possible. So that there was nothing going into the water, which would eliminate the M&R, although they may still want to have input on that. Obviously, the Conservation Authority would have input on that as well. But the concrete abutments would have rebar in them, and then we'd have to have the slope on each end, kind of thing. But it'll be in two pieces. My understanding, the bridge will be two pieces that's welded in the center.
And lastly, to make it truly accessible, I would expect that there would have to be some upgrades to the parking facilities at the end of the bridge on that Legion.
On the Legion
Park-
part,
Park
yes,
side.
that's correct. But it can satisfy, we're saying, you don't have to go for the whole Legion Park renovation. If we get the bridge in, at least we're started. So there is a parking lot over there now that maybe isn't the best, but it can suffice, for now. And I know the municipality in their plans for Legion Park wanted to put in an accessible washroom over on that side, which can be down the road. And I know they're not cheap either. Yeah.
Well, no, that's super. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and just one last point is I'll just make that with the bridge in, it will allow us to do more things in the park. And we have a few little ideas about the future too, but we can't do anything until we, yeah. But we can't do much until it's accessible. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So I had you bring this forward because strengthening our community, that's what this is all
Yes,
about.
absolutely.
Um,
Yes.
So just for your information, I'm bringing there's a motion for next Monday's council meeting. I brought it forward. I'm going to be out of town Monday, so Councillor Greenfield is going to propose it.
Great.
And basically, I run into a lot of snags. Basically, I wanted to get a price on the abutments.
Yeah.
I'm close to a company that has put a couple bridges in for us with different type of abutments,
Yeah,
and they will quote.
yeah,
They want to quote through the municipality because I don't own the land either. You
that's
don't.
right. We know.
I also found out through the clerk that we can't do this. You can't do this. It's not your land until we get a partnership. And there is a form and there is a process to come through as a
Okay.
partnership for somebody to raise funds and partner with the municipality. So that is part of my motion also.
Okay, terrific.
So that should advance quite rapidly. And basically the motion is not saying do it. No promises here,
Yeah,
is get a price.
Yes.
I can't go to our council and push
Mhm.
something until I get a price. So
exactly.
this
And
is gonna
we
happen
understood
Monday.
that. Okay.
and
Perfect.
I will push it through as quick as I can to get a partnership
Mhm,
so that you can fundraise for something for the municipality.
mhm,
Don't know all the legal
mhm.
details, but it is moving forward on Monday.
Yep,
And I
terrific.
thank you, ladies, for all the work you've done.
Thank
Now
you.
now it's our job.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much.
Now, there's no other deputations. Approval of the minutes. The minutes have been sent out. Is there any, recommendation that the minutes of the November 20th, 2024 meeting of the Strengthening Our Community Advisory Committee be approved as presented? Is any, can I have a first and a seconder to approve that? Okay. And is there any issues with the, minutes as presented? Yes, Mr.
Just Mr. I have I have a question. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want Sue, maybe you could tell me whether this happened. I mentioned to Steve that in there was a recommendation that the council write a letter to the Accessibility Advisory Committee expressing support for initiatives. Did that happen? Because if not, then if we need to make that formal request at council, we will, but I'm not sure that happened.
For you, Mr. Chair, I don't believe it's happened either.
Okay.
Alex is aware of it, and I know that she had said that she was going to be bringing it forward. I'm just not sure when she was planning to, but I can ask her.
Okay, yeah, it'll be too late for Monday's council meeting because the agenda's already gone out. But presumably in the following council meeting, we could make that an official request.
So we would ask Alex to bring it forward. Thank you. Thank you. Number 7, items for information. Economic development value from Councillor Rob Burek.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. Forgive me, I've got notes because we talked about a lot at the last growing our economy meeting and just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. The reason I'm bringing this up is so at the meeting, what we were talking about was this committee's mandate, as we know, is to celebrate diversity and culture while also actively supporting all persons across their life forces and circumstances. So that's a pretty broad spectrum, which could represent a lot of different things. We've said in the past that municipal public advisory committees should share ideas and topics between them to help better the community. So the Growing Our Economy Committee met last week and wanted to share some concerns just about local economic development. A couple things we discussed. There was an Alberta report on the impact of community events and festivals on rural places. That highlighted the value of events and tourism to local active and rural communities such as ourselves. That led to a discussion regarding the importance of the dedicated municipal community engagement coordinator position we currently have. It's a contract position. What that position does is it consolidates and simplifies public liaison and alleviates stress on the clerk and CAO positions, because in the past, a lot of organizations, that's where they would have went. CAO and clerk are obviously very busy, and this position kind of worked interdepartmentally within the structure, so that enabled them to kind of do a lot of legwork or the departments and then get back. So there was one point of contact between a lot of the organizations. If those that attended the 150th closing out ceremony, we had like over 76 events last year, which was a real benchmark. Handful of those were 150 related, but normally there's 65 to 70 events that happen in this community. So they're often reaching out to various departments for permits, for permissions, for various things. So what it ended up resulting is that contract position is right now not on the docket for the budget. And there is going to be a recommendation coming at Monday's meeting about the possibility of renewing that contract for 2025. So that's a recommendation coming from there. But we thought this community should be aware of it, because that presentation goes in great line with events and festivals and kind of the importance they have in terms of community benefit, well-being, and beyond that to active and tourism. So that also, we then had an active overview strategy we discussed for Meaford, as well as a business retention and expansion report from one of our neighboring communities, Southgate. They've done a really good job of identifying a lot of their businesses and resources that are in their community for exactly that. Now, Meaford hasn't engaged in a BR&E study since 2000. And so that committee, and I will be presenting that recommendation as well on Monday, is going to be recommending the council pursue a grant to conduct an updated study to support business development and attraction. So finally, the committee stressed the importance of including economic development staff and service levels in the municipal budget for three reasons. One, to assist with developing a summary of industrial and shovel-ready lands and the potential impact on future growth. Two was to identify the impact of the expansion of the wastewater plant on economic development over the next 20 years. And finally, now that the Ontario Pump Storage Project has moved to the feasibility stage, to assist in long-term community benefit planning. So these recommendations are designed to improve the recreational and professional offerings for residents and tourists alike in our community. We believe these initiatives dovetail with this committee's mandate, and would like to hear from our members on how we can work together to, as our names imply, grow our economy and strengthen our community. So that's kind of where we are. We would just kind of sort of like to hear where this committee sort of sits with the kind of economic development discussion, particularly this past iteration of CAO, short-lived, did kind of put an impetus on economic development so that we have staff and service levels in place. And the GOE committee feels that that needs to continue. I'd like to kind of just get the feel of what this committee feels about that regard. Thank you.
Sonia.
So I certainly agree that there's value in growing our business and our economy in town. I also think that there's a parallel need for this committee to have an awareness of the service projects that are available to our community, and have a greater baseline understanding of where we're at in terms of our social systems, so that we can measure whether or not the changes that we have made have had an impact.
Anybody else comment on Rob's initiative? No, thank you, Rob. It's a lot to think about. I look forward to the next meeting. Short-term accommodations, I put that on the agenda. Now, below is an update and some timelines for STRs for Meaford. This is a very large undertaking. Our initial meeting outlined a high-level plan to begin. All previous work and research is being correlated. We'll convene a meeting week of January 27th to start building the framework. At the same time, Denise will review the OP policies for alignment. A meeting every other week will be added to ensure we continue to move this forward. I will set up these in our calendars. So estimated timelines is the end of January, February, develop framework, advanced bylaw and program components. End of February, March, include comments going forward. March, community meeting and for feedback. April, report and bylaw to council. Early May, full program rollout. And we've had some hiccups because we've had some changes. I got an email from a constituent about Georgian Bluffs has just put their program into place. Georgian Bluffs was asked about the cost of the implementing the program, because we were told it could be $500,000 to implement this. The response from the deputy CAO is the township of Georgian Bluffs budgeted $90,000 in 2023 for the development of a short-term rental accommodation STRA licensing program, which included startup costs such as consultation, software implementation, the system setup. Since then, the township has allocated an annual operating budget of $65,000 for 2024 and 2025 to administer, enforce, and maintain a short-term rental accommodation licensing program. This includes software licensing, building and fire inspection costs per rental unit, additional bylaw enforcement support, and the operation of a 24/7 dedicated STRA hotline to ensure compliance and address community concerns. The program was developed in direct response to community input with extensive engagement from STRA operators, local businesses, and residents. The goal is to ensure responsible management of short-term rentals, balancing economic benefits with neighborhood safety and well-being. Additionally, per council's direction, the program is designed to achieve cost neutrality, meaning that under the fee structure, licensing fees will cover all operating costs. So that's what Georgian Bluffs is doing. That's what I want to do. Any comments from our group? Yes, Sally.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Wondering just how, do you have numbers of how many short-term rentals are in the Meaford area?
No,
No.
I don't. It's over 300
Okay, okay, thank you.
that we know of. And so could be 500. I'm not sure. I know it's an issue and it needs to be looked after. Meaford is one of the last of the municipalities to jump on this. That's why we're a little behind. Several other ones are done, and we're going forward with it to have some sort of control on what happens, some way to shut down the users that are taking advantage of the municipality. Anyways, that's my report on STRs. I think it's going to move forward, and we want it up and running before the May long weekend. Hopefully that can be done. Is there any committee inquiries and or what you'd like to see on the next meeting? Sonia.
I'm wondering whether or not, first of all, I would still like to do a presentation on the work that we're doing at the Rotary House. Also wondered whether or not, when we did our community safety and well-being committees before, we had a regular report from OPP just to give us an understanding of what the issues are within our community from that perspective. and any new statistics that we might have on concerns within our community from them. I also wondered whether or not being a community member in Meaford for a very long time, I recognize through conversation that I don't have a good understanding of the municipality structure, committees, and abbreviations that you use as you discuss things. So perhaps on a go forward each year when we put these committees together, we could have an orientation session for advisory committee members, all of us together, so that we have a deeper understanding of the issues that you're bringing to us.
Thank you, Sonia. So would you be prepared to do a Rotary House presentation at the next meeting?
I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, we'll try to get that on. Now, council did receive a quite lengthy OPP report. I would have to ask permission from the municipality whether that can be released to this committee.
Thank you through the chair. I will take a look at that and just make sure that that everything's good, but I can't see if it's been released before. It shouldn't be a problem this time around, but just if you leave that with me, I'll have an answer sooner than later.
Please, because it's several pages and it's in depth. And now it's for Gray Bruce, but it does have Meaford tones in it. So I will try to get that to us. Yes, Angela.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. I know at previous meetings, we had discussed the Meaford Culture Foundation doing a presentation, and Councillor Ureg and myself were going to piggyback on each other for that. So we'd very much like to have the opportunity to do that as well.
Okay. That's going to make next agenda setting meeting a lot easier. Anybody else? Rob.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to direct this one at Sarah, if I may. Was actually brought up just before we kind of went live today. I haven't really heard anything about the we put a call out for advisory committee members because there's a few committees that are short. So if there are any upcoming news about when we might hear whether there's going to be replacements on the various advisory committees?
Through the chair. Yes, I have been talking with our clerk about that, and we have gotten some folks in and applying. Not as big a numbers as what we'd like to have by any means, but I can again prepare a better report after this meeting. I can just throw something out to this group and let you know where we're at with that, just as an overview. And I'll do that the same with the information from the OPP.
Thank you. Could we go back to the original people that applied for these groups? Because it was quite lengthy at that time.
Through the chair, you're asking some good questions that I don't have answers to, but I can tell you, I will get you an answer.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything else from the committee? Okay. I'll read the communications piece. The committee will consider correspondence received by members of the public during each meeting. To share your comments, thoughts, or concerns with members of the committee, the public can send an email to sbrown@meaford.ca. When emails are received to this email address, they will be compiled in a correspondence list, which is then distributed to the community members prior to the meeting. The committee members, I'm sorry. The cover sheet of this list will be included on each meeting agenda. The contents of the correspondence list are not included on the public agenda to protect the privacy and personal information of those residents who choose to send in their thoughts and comments. If there's a date of the next meeting is Wednesday, April 2, 2025. And if there is no further comments, I will ask for adjournment at 2:47. Thank you.